You need to wait outside. You don't belong in here. The words sliced through the air like glass, cold, condescending, and soaked in quiet disgust. The lounge attendant's glare swept over Maya, pausing at her jeans, her college sweatshirt, her simple ponytail. Her conclusion was clear, undeserving. "We can't have you standing here while we verify your credentials," she said sharply. "Please wait outside. This could take a while." Maya Washington stood frozen, stunned, as other passengers casually strolled past her and into the Skyward Airlines Platinum Lounge. No checks, no questions, just smiles and nods. The silence wrapped around her like static, broken only by the soft hum of luxury-grade air conditioning and the faint roar of departing jets outside LaGuardia Airport. What no one in that room realized, not the attendant, not the staff, not the passengers, is that the woman they had just humiliated wasn't just another traveler. She was the CEO of the entire airline. And the mistake the attendant had just made? It would cost her everything. In 24 hours, she'd be jobless. In 48, her management team would follow. And in a week's time, the entire airline industry would be reckoning with a shift it hadn't seen in decades. But before we dive into this powerful true story of justice and long overdue accountability, smash that like button if you believe dignity isn't earned by appearances or titles. It's a basic right. Comment below where you're watching from, and tell us what you think companies should do about frontline employees who treat some customers like they don't belong. Maya Washington now stood behind floor-to-ceiling windows on the 52nd floor of Skyward Airlines headquarters in downtown Atlanta, watching jet trails etch silver lines across the blue morning sky. At just 38, she was the youngest CEO in the airline industry and one of only 3 black women ever to lead a major U.S. carrier. But the glossy quarterly reports scattered across her dark mahogany desk weren't encouraging. They told a different story, a disturbing one. Customer satisfaction scores were plunging, but this time it wasn't about delays, baggage issues, or pricing. The tone of complaints had changed. There was something deeper, more personal. The staff barely looked at me when I asked for help. I felt like I was being judged before I even said a word. I've flown elite for 6 years. But in first class, they acted like I didn't belong. Marcus Chen, her chief operating officer, walked in with 2 coffees and a look that said he didn't bring good news. They'd worked together for nearly a decade, ever since she was VP of operations and Marcus was the rising talent in customer experience. "The patterns are getting worse," Marcus said, without small talk, placing her black coffee, 1 sugar, on the desk. "Exit surveys from our premium lounges show a 23% drop in satisfaction from certain demographics." Certain demographics? Maya lifted an eyebrow. Marcus turned to the wall monitor and tapped his tablet. A slide appeared, graphs, trends, and red flags. Black passengers. Latino passengers. Older travelers. Anyone who didn't match a narrow image of the ideal customer was reporting drastically different treatment than their white, young, sharply dressed counterparts. "This isn't random," Marcus said. "The complaints are clustered. LaGuardia, Reagan National, Hartsfield-Jackson. And they're all saying the same thing. They felt unwelcome." Maya leaned forward, jaw set. She had built Skyward from a struggling regional airline into a national powerhouse, on a single belief: everyone deserves to fly with dignity. "That's part of the issue," Marcus said, frowning. "Most passengers don't file complaints. They simply stop flying with us. We're bleeding customers, and we don't even realize it until it's too late." Maya shut her laptop gently and leaned back, eyes fixed on the ceiling. "Remember when I first joined, and old Mr. Henderson said I'd never make it beyond middle management because I didn't fit the image for aviation?" Marcus gave a dry chuckle. "You sure proved him wrong." "Did I?" Maya asked. "Or did that mindset just go underground, shifted forms, stayed in place?" She rose to her feet, posture straightening as her thoughts solidified into action. "I'm going undercover." Marcus nearly coughed out his coffee. "Maya, you're practically a household name. You were on the cover of Forbes last month. You gave the keynote at the Kennedy Center last week. Half our company's cafeterias have your photo framed on the wall." "That's true, for HQ staff and C-suite execs. But to a gate agent at LaGuardia who's never visited corporate? To a lounge attendant in DC who sees 1,000 travelers a week? I'm nobody. Just another black woman in an airport. This is outrageous. No, she said calmly. It's essential. Her voice held that quiet, resolute command that had powered her through every obstacle. 1 week. 5 cities. I'll travel as Maya Johnson. Personal card only. No company perks. If bias is baked into our system, I need to witness it firsthand. Marcus was silent for a moment. Then, what if someone recognizes you? Then I'll know those training posters actually worked. Her smile was tight, measured. Coach on every flight, she added. Middle seat if available. And Marcus, this stays between us. The transformation wasn't difficult. Maya swapped her tailored blazers for jeans and a faded Morehouse College sweatshirt, still her alma mater, just worn enough to blend in. Her gold jewelry was replaced with modest studs and a plain wristwatch. Her sleek bob gave way to a pulled-back ponytail. And her posture changed most of all, from the poised walk of a corporate titan to the slightly hurried shuffle of a seasoned, overworked traveler. In her fabricated identity, Maya Johnson was a mid-level management consultant who traveled often but hadn't cracked the first-class threshold. Her first test came at Hartsfield-Jackson, Atlanta, Skyward's largest hub and her home turf. She joined the line at the premium check-in counter, quietly observing. Ahead of her, a white man in a pressed suit stepped up. The agent, Jennifer, her name tag read, beamed instantly. Good morning, Mr. Patterson. Back to Chicago? You know it, he replied casually. Want me to check for an upgrade? She offered, already typing. You're all set in 2A, she smiled. Enjoy the flight. No ID request. No verification. Just seamless, familiar service. Then Maya approached. Good morning, she said with a warm, polished smile. Checking in for the 10:15 to LaGuardia. Jennifer's tone shifted. The warmth drained. The smile? Now mechanical. She studied Maya's ID a little too long, squinting at the photo, then back at Maya's face, twice. Maya Johnson, she read aloud, like the name itself needed inspection. This is C. 14, that's a middle seat. Actually, Maya said politely, I have elite status. Would it be possible to check for an aisle seat? Jennifer's expression darkened, as if Maya had asked for a private jet. She glanced briefly at Maya's phone screen, where her status was clearly displayed. System's running slow today, she muttered. I'll need to verify it manually. Can you step aside so I can assist the next guest? Maya felt a surge of heat rise in her chest, but she kept her tone composed. How long will the verification take? Could be 15-20 minutes, the agent said with a shrug. Depends on how backed up member services is. Behind her, another traveler stepped forward, a young white woman dressed in yoga pants, designer tote swinging from her shoulder. The agent's face lit up instantly. Within seconds, she was processed and waved through without so much as a pause. Maya stepped aside, pulling out her phone as if to take notes, but she didn't need to jot anything down. The contrast in treatment was unforgettable. 15 minutes later, the agent called her back with zero apology and no explanation for the delay. You're confirmed in 14E. Gate B12. No, have a good flight. Just the bare minimum. Maya headed toward security, mentally filling her notebook with observations. But the most powerful lessons were still ahead. LaGuardia buzzed with the usual noise and movement, but Maya had trained herself to see what most didn't, the unspoken rules beneath the chaos. She positioned herself near Gate 23, pretending to scroll through emails, all while closely observing the boarding process. It didn't take long for a pattern to emerge. An older black gentleman approached the counter, his platinum status clearly displayed on a luggage tag. The gate agent barely looked up, made him wait unnecessarily, and questioned his ticket. Just minutes later, a young white passenger stepped up. No questions. No delay. A smile and swift service. Maya's pen moved quickly now. Same desk. Same employee. Entirely different treatment. But the real challenge came next, accessing the Skyward Platinum Lounge. The lounge gleamed with elegance, polished floors, soft ambient lighting, and upscale furniture. Maya had personally overseen the redesign 2 years ago, insisting it feel inclusive, comfortable, and reflective of the airline's diverse clientele. She approached the reception desk, where a young woman named Brittany sat. "Can I help you?" Brittany asked with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "I'd like to enter the lounge," Maya replied, offering her platinum card and boarding pass. Brittany took them, but instead of scanning them, she held the card up to the light, examining it like a counterfeit bill. "These look a little off," she muttered. Maya raised an eyebrow. "Excuse me? The card's print quality isn't quite what we usually see. Your app says you've been platinum for 4 years, but our records might not match that," Brittany whispered, lowering her voice. "We've had incidents. People using fake cards to sneak into premium spaces. I'm sure you understand." Before Maya could respond, another traveler arrived, a white man in khakis and a golf polo, fresh from a country club. "Afternoon, Brittany," he said cheerfully. Her face transformed. "Mr. Davidson, back from Hilton Head? Let me walk you to your usual seat." Without another glance at Maya, Brittany left her post and personally escorted him through the lounge. No ID check, no boarding pass scan, no hesitation. Maya stood quietly, heart pounding, not with anger, but clarity. This wasn't random. It was systemic. 20 minutes passed. Brittany finally returned, visibly surprised to see Maya still waiting. "About your verification," she said, tone clipped. "I'll need you to wait outside while I get in touch with member services. Could take a while, and we can't have you standing at the entrance." "Wait outside?" Maya asked, keeping her voice calm despite the storm rising within her. "Yes," Brittany replied, pointing toward the general seating. "There are chairs over there. We'll call you if everything checks out." "How long is this going to take?" Maya asked calmly. "Could be an hour," Brittany replied. "Maybe longer. Member services is backed up today." Maya looked at her, disbelief tightening her jaw. "You want me to wait outside the lounge, possibly for over an hour, while you verify credentials that your system already confirmed?" "Ma'am, I'm just following protocol," Brittany replied coolly. "If you have concerns with our security policies, you're welcome to submit a complaint." Behind her, Maya watched other passengers breeze into the lounge with nothing more than a quick scan of their cards. No delays, no scrutiny, no instructions to wait outside. "So let me get this straight," Maya said slowly. "You're asking me to step outside and wait while you confirm the legitimacy of a membership your scanner just verified." "That's correct," Brittany said, her tone as polite as it was firm. "We'll notify you when it's sorted." Maya felt 2 decades worth of battles with glass ceilings rise in her chest like a tidal wave. But she swallowed it all down. This wasn't the moment to reveal who she was. Staying in character was more important than ever. She picked up her bag, her fingers trembling slightly, not out of fury, but from the unbearable clarity of what she was witnessing. She walked silently toward the general gate area and took a seat, notebook open in her lap. This wasn't unconscious bias. This was deliberate exclusion, sanitized by corporate language and disguised as procedure. She scribbled quickly. "Denied access. Told to wait outside for verification. No steps taken to verify credentials. Others admitted freely." But she didn't need to write it to remember. The truth was seared into her. She had been singled out not because of a glitch in the system, but because she didn't conform to someone's narrow expectations of who belonged in a luxury space. She was a black woman in casual clothes. And that alone had rendered her suspect. And if she, a CEO with a verified platinum membership, was being treated this way, what was happening to all the others who lacked her power, her platform, her name? By the time she reached her 4th stop, Reagan National Airport, the pattern had become impossible to dismiss. Over the course of her journey, she had recorded 17 separate cases of differential treatment based on race, clothing, age, or perceived status. But nothing prepared her for what she witnessed next at Gate 35. Maya sat quietly, waiting for her flight to Miami, when she noticed tension rising at the counter. A black woman in her 50s, well-dressed, composed, clearly a professional, stood at the desk, frustration barely held in check. I've been elite for 8 years, she said. My upgrade should have processed automatically. The agent, a young man named Kevin, barely looked up. Ma'am, the system shows no upgrade request. You're confirmed in seat 22F. I'm second on the upgrade list, she said, holding out her phone. I can see it right here. Kevin dismissed her screen with a glance. Sometimes the app doesn't show real-time updates. There's nothing I can do. Her voice remained measured, but worn by repetition. Could you check with a supervisor, please? Kevin's response was curt. I am the supervisor. Now, I need to assist the next passenger. The woman stepped aside, her posture still dignified but defeated. Moments later, a white man in a wrinkled polo approached. No carry-on. No business attire. Just another tired traveler. Hey, he said casually. Any shot at an upgrade? Kevin's demeanor softened instantly. Let's see what I can do, sir. You're in luck. I've got 2C open. Something cracked inside Maya. She rose and stepped forward. Excuse me, she said evenly. I couldn't help but notice the woman before him had also requested an upgrade. But that gentleman just received an upgrade, Maya finished. Kevin turned toward her, irritation flickering behind his forced professionalism. And you are? Maya Johnson, she said evenly. I'm also an elite member. I'd like to understand how upgrades are being assigned. Kevin's eyes swept over her, from the worn college sweatshirt to the jeans, to the no-frills ponytail. His expression made it painfully clear what he saw, someone who didn't belong. Ma'am, he said curtly, upgrades are assigned case by case based on availability and a variety of criteria. What criteria? Maya asked calmly. Factors determined by corporate policy, Kevin said, voice cool but clipped. Maya recognized the tone. It was the one people used when they thought you didn't deserve a real answer, because you didn't matter. And who determines those policies? She asked, her voice level but firm. Kevin's composure cracked. Look, lady, he snapped, professionalism fading fast. I don't know what game you're playing, but I've got a flight to board. If you don't like how we do things, maybe try flying with someone else. A hush fell over the gate. Conversations died mid-sentence. Dozens of eyes turned toward them. Maya realized she had reached a crossroads. Quietly walk away and document it in her notes, or confront the truth, openly, and face whatever storm followed. Before she could speak, a voice rose behind her. Excuse me, but I saw what just happened. Maya turned. It was the same black businesswoman from earlier, standing tall, face calm but eyes sharp with resolve. I've been a Skyward Elite member for 8 years, the woman said, her voice carrying easily over the gate's growing silence. And I've seen this same scene unfold more times than I can count. Different airports. Different staff. Always the same outcome. She turned directly to Kevin. You told me there were no upgrades available. Then, moments later, you gave one to someone who hadn't even asked until after I'd been turned away. The murmuring began. Other passengers nodded, whispered, some pulling out their phones. Maya could feel it building. This was no longer just about her. It was a reckoning that had been waiting to happen. Kevin's face flushed deep red. Ma'am, he said sharply, I'm going to have to ask you to lower your voice, or I'll be forced to contact security. Maya stepped forward, her decision made. Actually, she said softly, I think security should hear about this. She pulled out her phone, but instead of calling airport security, she dialed a familiar number. Marcus, it's Maya. I need you to patch in our regional operations manager for Reagan National. Now. Kevin looked confused. A beat later, her phone's speaker crackled to life. This is Marcus Chin, COO of Skyward Airlines. Who am I speaking with? Kevin straightened. This is Kevin Morrison, gate supervisor at Reagan National. Well, Kevin, Marcus said coolly, you're speaking with Maya Washington. I believe you've met. Kevin paled. The recognition hit like a freight train. Maya met his gaze, her voice calm. Maya Washington, she said again. CEO of Skyward Airlines. And Kevin, we need to talk. The executive conference room at Reagan National had never seen a meeting like this. Maya sat at the head of the table, still in her jeans and sweatshirt, facing 7 senior airport staff hastily assembled in response to the incident. At the far end, Kevin sat slouched, eyes downcast, as if hoping the floor would swallow him whole. "Let me be absolutely clear about why we're here," Maya began, her voice carrying the same calm authority that had launched an airline and shattered every ceiling in her path. "For the past week, I've been traveling incognito. On our flights. In our lounges. At our hotels." She held up a well-worn notebook. "What I've found isn't a policy failure. It's not a training oversight. It's a cultural breakdown." She opened to a page and began reading. "At our Atlanta hub, Jennifer Martinez made me wait 20 minutes for a status check that didn't require one. Then cleared a white passenger immediately. No questions asked. At LaGuardia, Brittany Thompson. She said my credentials didn't look right, then told me to wait outside while other passengers strolled in without so much as a second glance. At Reagan National, Kevin Morrison had claimed no upgrades were available, then casually handed one to a white man who hadn't even requested it. The silence in the room was thick with discomfort as Maya continued. 17 incidents. 5 airports. The same discriminatory pattern each time. And what makes this a system failure, not a coincidence, is that I found the proof." She nodded to Marcus, who silently connected his laptop to the projector. The screen lit up with internal emails and text threads, directives encouraging staff to use discretion when deciding who fit the cabin environment or aligned with brand image. Maya let the damning documentation speak for itself. Then she looked up. "Kevin Morrison," she said firmly, "you're terminated, effective immediately." Kevin's mouth opened to argue, but Maya raised a hand. "David Palmer, you're suspended pending investigation. As for the others mentioned in these communications, HR will conduct reviews, and disciplinary actions will follow." Her tone was razor-sharp. She laid out sweeping reforms, all discretionary verification policies suspended, lounges to implement automated access, mandatory anti-bias training for frontline staff, and a new passenger advocacy hotline reporting directly to her. "I don't care about your excuses. I care about measurable change. This airline will treat every customer with respect, or you'll find employment elsewhere. Are we clear?" A chorus of "Yes, ma'am" echoed in reply. Good. Meeting adjourned. The following morning, Maya stood before a wall of reporters at Skyward Airlines headquarters. This time, she wasn't alone. Beside her stood Dr. Angela Reed, the same businesswoman who had been denied an upgrade at Reagan National. Maya hadn't just apologized to her privately, she'd asked her to help lead the charge. "Yesterday," Maya began, "I concluded a covert, week-long journey across our network, investigating numerous reports of racial bias in service delivery. What I found wasn't isolated bad behavior, it was systemic failure woven into our infrastructure." She recounted being doubted, delayed, and dismissed, not for any policy violation but for how she looked. Dr. Reed, who stands beside me, is an elite Skyward member of 8 years. She met all the criteria for an upgrade but was denied it and then watched it handed to another passenger minutes later. Her experience isn't an exception, it's part of a troubling pattern we enabled and allowed to persist. Dr. Reed stepped forward. "This is about more than upgrades. It's about dignity. It's about being recognized as a valued client, regardless of skin color or whether you're wearing designer brands." Maya didn't just acknowledge the problem, she acted on it. She unveiled the Skyward Dignity Initiative, robust bias training for all employees, quarterly service audits, an independent passenger board, and a $5 million fund supporting groups working to combat discrimination in travel and hospitality. Most importantly, she made a personal promise. "I'll continue flying our routes, not in my CEO role, but as a regular passenger, to ensure these reforms stick." When reporters asked whether this was a publicity stunt, Maya's eyes narrowed. If basic human decency is a PR strategy, then this industry has lost its moral compass. This isn't about perception, it's about people. 6 months later, Maya returned to the exact spot where everything had erupted, Gate 35 at Reagan National. But now she stood there in her full CEO attire, preparing to fly to the annual Airline Industry Summit in Chicago. She wasn't undercover this time, but old habits made her observe. She watched the staff at the gate treat every traveler, young, old, black, white, with professionalism and warmth. No extra ID checks. No judgment. No thinly veiled exclusion. Just excellent service. Maya smiled and texted Marcus, Reagan National. Gate 35. Night and day difference. His reply was nearly instant. Customer satisfaction up 31% across all groups. Complaints about bias down 89%. You did it. Maya looked around the terminal. She saw mixed families preparing to board. Elderly passengers receiving help with luggage. Nervous first-time flyers getting kind answers to simple questions. The environment felt transformed, more inclusive, more humane. More like the airline she had always envisioned. As she boarded, Maya thought back to the hardest truth of her undercover mission. How easily respect could be denied, and how painstaking it was to restore. But now, watching genuine smiles and kindness ripple through the space, she felt it, the shift. They hadn't fixed everything, not yet. But they were building something better. In an industry that had silently accepted discrimination for decades, better was nothing short of revolutionary. As the aircraft pulled away from the gate, Maya eased into her first-class seat, not because of who people thought she was, but because she'd purchased that seat fair and square. Just like everyone else. Just like it should be. If this story resonated with you, share your own experiences, whether in travel or other sectors. Progress begins when we stop accepting injustice as normal and start holding institutions accountable. Your story matters. Use it.